Well, a Star War happened. Let's talk about it.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia. Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. And don't forget, if you're a sci-fi and fantasy fan, which you might be if you're watching a Star Wars video, then why not check out my book, Side Scroller, which is a sci-fi fantasy as well, an adventure that takes place in a world that runs on the logic of video games. And I wrote this all by my little self. So if you're buying books for people for Christmas or birthdays or whatever the occasion, hey, don't buy books by Tolkien. Don't buy books by Stephen King. They have enough money. They're going to be okay. Support an up-and-coming author. Pick up a copy of Side Scroller on Amazon. You can get it in ebook or paperback. I promise you, it's 2 metric tons of fun. Okay, let's get into this. The Rise of Skywalker is a movie. It exists. It's a Star War. And as happens every time a Star War pops into existence, the fandom lights up like a Christmas tree that's set to have all its lights flash and blink at different times. And people just talk and talk about how they loved it, or how they hated it, or how it was the bestest thing in the world, or how it was garbage, etc., etc. You get some passion in these Star Wars fans that is unrivaled, sometimes to its detriment. The unfortunate truth of the matter is that the Star Wars fan community has become a cesspool of negativity. Whether it's coming from people who like the movies or people who don't like the movies, there's negativity on both sides. And it's not a fun place to spend a lot of your time. Unless you're joining me on Rebel Scum Podcast, in which case it's a very fun place to spend your time. It's really hard to review a Star Wars movie after having only seen it once. And I saw it last night and it's still kind of vibrating around in my brain. So this is going to be one of the most difficult reviews I've ever had to do, but I'm going to power through it anyway, just for you, because I want to get a point across here. From this point on, there will be spoilers. This is a spoiler review, so please don't say I didn't warn you. What did I think of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker? I really, really loved it. Why did I love it? Best, simplest way I can sum it up, because it was a Star Wars movie, baby. I'm lucky enough to live in a world where a new Star Wars has just come out, and I'm, not living on the streets. I can afford the money to buy a ticket and go watch it. I am blessed. Of course I'm going to go in there and have a great time and appreciate the fact that I'm seeing a new Star Wars. On top of that, we built on the story and on the lore, just like every Star Wars does, and we got a very conclusive ending that puts a nice little bow on the saga. J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy and Disney and Lucasfilm have promised answers, closure, and fun. And we got them. We got them all. Now, let me make one thing perfectly clear. Every single Star Wars movie, all of them, have parts that I like, have parts that I don't like, and have parts that I love. This is no exception. And yeah, that can pretty much be applied to almost every single motion picture ever made, but I'm strictly talking about Star Wars here because everybody who knows me knows that Star Wars is my jam. I mean, my room is full of Star Wars stuff. I work for a Star Wars podcast. I write databases on Star Wars content. I bleed this fiction. So when people find that out about me, a lot of the times they automatically assume I love Star Wars. Everything is perfect. Nothing is bad about it. The end. Which is not the case, folks. I'll say it in case you didn't hear me the first time. Every movie has parts I like, has parts I don't like, and has parts I love. The Rise of Skywalker has parts I like, has parts I don't like, and has parts I love. As it was in the beginning, is now, and probably forever shall be, world without end. If I could have changed one thing about this movie, I think what I would have done, and this is just me because I'm biased and I love big, long things, is I would have stretched this story out into 2 movies. Episodes 7 and 8 really felt like they were part of one story, whereas this feels like a separate entity, a separate mission. It really does feel like a sequel to those 2. And there's so much that happens in this that you need, I feel at least, to give it more room to breathe. And I think that a good cutoff point where you could have ended one movie and started another was the point where Kylo Ren tells Rey the truth about her family. Now, I'm not one of those people who likes to do a little dance and brag and be like, I totally called it every time that something happens that I predict. But I gotta say, I was pretty happy to know that my theory since day one that this lady's full name was gonna be Rey Natasha Palpatine totally came true. Yep, Rey is a Palpatine, and they did with her what I wanted them to do with her. The reason why I wanted her to be a Palpatine was addressed in this movie, but I think you could have done more with it, and I think having it stretch over 2 movies would have helped. And that reason was I wanted Rey to struggle with something that we never got to see Luke really struggle with, which is, oh my god, I'm related to one of the worst monsters in the galaxy. How can I live with myself? What if that darkness is in me? What if I become like my grandfather or my father and hurt the people I love? I wanted to put Rey through those paces. I wanted to make her find herself. She's always trying to find herself, find her identity. And no search for identity is more rewarding and more challenging than when you're struggling to escape from the shadow of your forefathers. In Rise of Skywalker, when Rey finds out that she is a Palpatine, she is rightfully terrified. But it happens at about the halfway point of the movie, so you only get half a movie of her dealing with that problem. And I think that that could have been a much bigger problem that you could have stretched out more and given this story more space to breathe. When Luke finds out Darth Vader is his father, he's iffy about it and he's in denial. And when we come back in Return of the Jedi, Yoda's just like, yeah, he's your daddy. And Luke's like, all right, I guess I'll go face him. You never get that sense that Luke is like, oh my god, like I could be a monster too. I could be just as bad as him. This is horrible news. Rey sells more of that fear. I just think you could have done more with it, especially because this is a movie that is tying up not just one trilogy, but 3 trilogies. You could have spaced it out more. I'm not going to blame you if you stretch it to 2 movies. I'll pay for 2 movies. That is fine with me. One thing I think everybody should know going into this is that they introduce a bunch of new force powers that are all very, very integral to the way the plot shapes out. If you've been watching Mandalorian, you know that there's a force power where you can touch somebody who's wounded and heal their wound. That shows up here a bunch. Then there are also other things that are almost too complicated to explain, and I probably have no right to explain them because, like I said, I've only seen this movie once, and I feel like there's so much force stuff going on underneath all of that I definitely need to kind of do more homework before I have any right to talk about it or critique it or try to explain it in any way, shape, or form. But every character got their moment to shine. Every Star Wars sort of fist-pumping moment was present in here, whether it's seeing the good guys show up at the 11th hour and all the spaceships saving the day, or seeing classic characters like Leia, Luke, Lando, Chewie, and Palpatine, and C-3PO really have so many moments where they steal the show, especially C-3PO. The pieces all fit together wonderfully. The message of hope that Star Wars has been broadcasting since day one is still there. The light versus the dark, the idea of redemption, the idea of love saving the day, the idea of the underdogs facing off against a threat much bigger than themselves. All of these Star Wars cliches are there, and they don't feel like cliches because we've been hearing the same song 9 times now, just to different rhythms. And anybody who felt that recent Star Wars films have not felt Star Warsy enough for them, this is probably the most Star Warsy thing that has ever existed. Yes, the plot is bonkers and it's so weird, and the Emperor is doing weird stuff in like his underground pyramid lair, and the Force is doing all kinds of crazy things that we haven't seen it do before. But if it wasn't bonkers, I don't think it would be Star Wars. Now, a lot of people do not like this movie. Why is that? I don't know. I can't speak for people. Art is subjective. You like what you like. You don't like what you don't like. I'm not going to try to change anybody's mind. This is just why I think this didn't resonate with some people. Here's the thing about Star Wars, folks. Star Wars is an iceberg. And the movies, those little 2-hour movies that you get every once in a while, those are the 1/8 of the iceberg that is up above water level. Everything else, and I mean everything else, is underwater. For every one Star Wars movie that you get in a theater, you get like 7 books, you get 3 or 4 comics, you get a TV show, you get new characters added to the mythos that have nothing to do with the movie you're watching. It's a multimedia franchise. It has been since day one. Nobody in 1977 knew that that planet was called Tatooine because they walked out of the movie. They knew that planet was called Tatooine because they joined Bantha Tracks or they read the visual guides and they got in the know from extracurricular multimedia parts of the saga. For me, Star Wars has never been just the movies. It's never been just, here's this 2-hour thing that I watch and that's it. For me, the heart of Star Wars, the heart and soul of this franchise, what makes it fun, is stuff like this. This, to me, is as much a part of the Star Wars experience as sitting in a movie theater and watching the next film. The visual dictionaries are all the parts of that iceberg that are underneath the water. Everything you could possibly want to know about anything, it's all in here. Look at this. Look, there's Tatooine. I just went to a random page. There's Tatooine. You want to know what this animal's called? These books are going to tell you. You want to know what this vehicle is called and how it works and what company made it? It's going to tell you. That's what these books are all about. They have done one for every movie, and I hope they'll continue doing it for more movies in the future because there's so much fun in the details. They make sure that the details are just as interesting as the movies themselves. That's why so many people obsess, like myself, over Star Wars, because it was literally built to be obsessed over. If they didn't want you to obsess about their movies, folks, they wouldn't make books like this. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that I think a lot of people are turned off by this movie because more than any other movie in the franchise history, The Rise of Skywalker feels like you almost need this to really understand what's going on. And that is a mark against the way it was written. Abrams and Terrio could have absolutely padded out the movie a little bit more just to have a few more lines that explain a few more things and a bit more clarity. The Rise of Skywalker, at this point, because it's the end, they're expecting you to be like, well, everybody's probably going to do the homework because our fans are like that. Our fans buy these books. The stuff that's been in here has never been crucial to understanding the plot until now. I don't have the visual dictionary yet for The Rise of Skywalker, but just to give you an idea of how insane this movie is, this book, you see how thick this is? This covers 8 movies, and the one that's coming out for Rise of Skywalker is almost going to be as long as this. That's how much stuff is packed in this film, and that's how much important stuff wasn't spelled out clearly enough in the script that you need to kind of go back and do the homework to learn more about. I understand, I get it. That can be really frustrating for some people who don't care about these books, because there are people who don't care about these books. So that's why I believe there are a lot of Star Wars fans who are just not feeling The Rise of Skywalker. And that's why I believe that there are a lot of other Star Wars fans like myself who are really feeling The Rise of Skywalker. Never have I ever wanted to get my hands on one of the visual dictionaries more so than I do right now, because I feel like once I dive into that book, I'm going to appreciate The Rise of Skywalker even more than I already do. And yes, that was a scattered and a bit frenetic of a review, but it is kind of a scattered movie for better or for worse, and love it or hate it, you can't deny that fact. But we have reached the end of the Skywalker saga, and I can say proudly with a smile on my face that I had an absolute blast. I can't wait to see what Star Wars does next, whenever or whatever that may be. So to all the characters that I have come to know and love over my lifetime, to Luke, to Leia, to the droids, to Rey, to Finn, all I can say is thank you so much for so many years of fun. Anyway, that has been Thumb Together. That has been The Rise of Skywalker. You have been awesome, and I have been Andrew Fantasia. I will see you here next time. Until then, my friends, may the Force be with you.